Oh crap, we're recording. Welcome back, Padawans, to the Jedi Gaming Academy channel. And today, I've got a Jedi mind trick for you guys, alright? And we're going to be discussing the graphics and just the fidelity of Star Wars Outlaws, alright? Now, again, I told you guys, we're going to be talking about Star Wars Outlaws a lot this week. Well, a lot during the course of this, of my comeback to YouTube, because this is what got me to come back to YouTube. So, of course, we're going to be diving in and jumping on multiple different topics with this game. Also, before we get into everything, I do want to preface, in the past, I have done content that is revolving around multiple different games, right? A span of games, the sea of gaming, a sea of games that we see coming out during the course of a year. But I think we need to pivot, right? I think we need to kind of focus on the Star Wars, all right? And again, my job here in making these YouTube channels is to create a positive force inside of the Star Wars ecosystem, inside of the space, all right? Because I see a lot of negativity going around Star Wars, and it just in all facets of the media, in the shows, the movies, the games, and I don't want to do that. Obviously, I am a bit biased on my Star Wars love, but that creates and that gives me the chance to just be that positive force inside of the Star Wars ecosystem, alright? So that's kind of what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be sticking towards Star Wars gaming content on the Jedi Gaming Academy channel. Doesn't it just make sense? I think it does. But without further ado, let us discuss the graphics of Star Wars Outlaws and just how fantastic they all are. Now again, I have only been to Canto Bight, Toshara, and now Kijimi, or Akiva, I believe. That's actually where I'm at. Yeah, I'm not in Kijimi. I'm in Akiva. That was the third planet that I went to. Technically second, because you just kind of start off on Canto Bight. The second planet that I've actually traveled to and chose to go to. So I'm not going to have a lot of, of the other planets to discuss, but just on those first two planets. Because we didn't really spend that much time on Canto Bight, but on Toshara and Akiva. The drastic difference and change in landscape that we're seeing in both of them is phenomenal. Like, already out the gate, fantastic. So, Toshara, as we mentioned, is a moon, right? So you're thinking maybe you're going to see, like, stuff that's like on our moon, right? It's not very lived in, obviously, but as I touched on in the previous episode, not the previous, but in a later episode, there is a whole, they have cities, they have settlements, outposts, all throughout this this one area of the map that you're able to go and do whatever you want to do in. So these areas that they've come up with for Toshara really make that a lived-in world. And when we're talking about the graphics of this and how just good everything looks, again, when you come out into Toshara for the first time, because you do land on Toshara, but then you have to quickly get to Maragana. That's one of the biggest markets on Toshara, and you do a lot of kind of world building there, trying to get your foot into the criminal underworld there, and it feels like kind of claustrophobic at first. Now when I go in there, it doesn't. I'm starting to find my way around there, and again, it's very much a kind of like a maze in that, but you do understand that it is very more claustrophobic, as I said, than when you're getting out into the actual open world area. And when you finally step out into that open world, it is like night and day. And when you see the map just span out in front of you, it is the most beautiful thing that I think I have ever experienced in a Star Wars game. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I really hate that I talk like this about Star Wars Outlaws, because I feel like I am kind of throwing shade indirectly towards Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order. Those games are fantastic as well, but it hasn't given me what Star Wars Outlaws has, which is feeling like I'm in the world. And a part of that is just how good the fidelity is in this, all right? So there are multiple different things that you can do that really kind of like, oh, okay. I saw a clip of somebody put up the Star Wars Outlaws alongside Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, in my head, I would not compare the two of them based on what you can do. Now, granted, these are more mechanics, but in my head, it is graphical fidelity, right? Getting into the water and seeing Kay's outfit get more progressively wet. I don't know if that is even grammatically correct, but you get my point. When you could get her in, you could see that as you're in the water, she's getting more wet, more wet, more wet, and then as you step out of the water, you can literally see the water dry as you're going about the world. I love that. That is fantastic. I think that really shows, again, attention to detail, excuse me. It shows attention to detail that it's not necessarily going to be in the majority of games. I don't know if that's in Jedi Survivor because I haven't actually tested that out, you know what I'm saying? But I also didn't test it out here. It was somebody else that I just saw while I was scrolling on the TikToks, you know what I'm saying? But I legitimately think that that is an actual point that you can look at for how well the fidelity is here and how much care they put into just those little details of this game. So yeah, I say we're going to be talking about graphics, but we're really going to be talking about the details that are prevalent in here. Graphics are going to be a part of that as well. The game looks fantastic. Like, let's just be honest. Let's not even mince fruit. The hair follicles on this game, Nyx's hair, I love it. It's fantastic. When you see the, when you're walking through grass, you can hear, first of all, the grass moves as you walk through it, right? Now, we're not talking about just like little grass, we're talking about like bushes that you're walking through. As you're walking through them, you can see that it is reacting to you going through them. That also adds to, again, the realism here. When we get to Akiva. Now, Akiva is completely separate from Tashara because it's not as open as you would think that it is compared to Tashara. Tashara is a very open landscape, right? So you can really stay on the paths, as I said, because that's going to be the easiest way for you to get to from point A to point B, but you can also just go left and just keep going straight that way because it's an open landscape. Akiva's not like that. Akiva, you really got to stick to those paths that they've created because it's a more compact map. It still is very much like a maze. So kind of how Maragana felt like a maze on foot, Akiva feels like a maze while you're on your speeder bike. And then that's another thing, the speeder bike. Oh my gosh, like that thing, when you're zooming past everything, it still is there. You can still see everything that you're trying to do. Now, do I wish it was a little bit faster? Yes, that's a little tangent. But the fact that you can still see all of these different landscapes and these different landmarks while you're speeding through this this world, again, adds to the graphical fidelity here, guys. So I'm very excited to get to Tatooine to see where Luke was raised, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to experience the different places that he would have to go to, see how much of the Tatooine map is here. I would assume a decent portion of it because Tatooine is, I mean, honestly, probably one of the biggest worlds that they've put into this game, as in mindshare wise for Star Wars fans. So I would assume that they did a lot and put a lot of care in here. And I'm taking my time, all right? That was one thing I also saw, is that you got to take your time with this game. And that's really how you're going to feel that, like, that love of Star Wars and that feeling of being in this world, as if you take your time, all right? So when I'm walking through, and that's it, I just said it, I am walking through these different areas. I'm not running as I normally would do in any other game because I'm just trying to get the job done. Sometimes I do because, you know, I got stuff that I got to do, right? I got stuff that I got to do in my real life as well as in the game life. So I want to kind of speed that up a little bit, but I can't bring myself to do it all the time, especially when we're in the market areas, because the market areas are just done so well that I feel like if I'm running through it, I'm missing all of the things that the developers are wanting me to see, wanting me to pay attention to, wanting me to, hey, listen to that conversation. You might find something else out in the open world that's going to come in handy because you listen to this conversation here. And again, that level design, that world design here, fantastic. Like, it is absolutely one of the most lived in Star Wars games that I've ever played because of these different aspects. And I love that there are little parts in, I would assume, I mean, they've been in Akiva, they were definitely in Tashara, where, and even Canto Bight, where you can just lean. You know, you just lean and you just look at whatever's going on, whether it's in the market, whether it's on a cliffside, whether it's there's moments where you can you know, follow Nyx and he tries to find you different not items, but, well, yeah, collectible items. So they're not items for you, they're really items for Nyx that he kind of like just likes to play with. You're never gonna see him play with them. I mean, at least I haven't. But I do like going and finding those because at the end it does this pan out view of the current, you know, area that you're in, and it's so beautiful. So beautiful. I'm going to be showing some of these as we're talking through this, but I'm telling you guys, like, the leaning, being able to sit down, just to be here, just be here in this little area, there's nothing going on except you and whatever else is going on around you. I'm saying nothing else going on. It's in missions. There's nobody shooting at you. There's no, there's nobody getting into fights next to you. You know what I mean? You're just living. You're just here. And that one aspect, putting you right there and letting you just kind of pig out and just chill, that is what makes this game feel real. You know what I'm saying? And I know I started this off as we're just talking about graphics, but I guess we're really talking about the design of the game. Graphics are included in the design, but how they decided to go about this really, really makes it feel like it's that, like you're in the galaxy. And I know I'm harping on that because I've said that in my initial thoughts of the game, but it's true. That's what they've done. Now, going through Akiva, the world is definitely different, like I said, than Tashara. So Tashara's more open, Akiva's not. But also, it's not as vibrant as Tashara is. Tashara feels like not a desert planet, not like Tatooine, how you would think the Tatooine landscape would be, but it definitely feels like it's more of a plain area, right? Like an open plain. You know what I mean? Kind of like a countryside. That's kind of how I would depict that. Like if I would really try to say like what it would be comparable to here in the U.S., I would say probably like Colorado. Not Colorado, but somewhere that has mountainsides and some greenery. You know what I mean? Like a very nature-focused place. That's kind of where I would put that in. But Akiva definitely feels like it's more of a foresty area, and what that means is that there's not going to be a lot of sunlight coming through. You know, I honestly thought at one point that we're not really going to even see sunlight. But even without seeing sunlight, even in the dark, at night, it still looks beautiful. It still looks fantastic because you can still see where you're going. You can still get to where you need to go. But it's that feeling of, okay, it's now nighttime. It's going to be a little bit harder to get around, but it doesn't feel that hard, right? You know what I'm saying? It feels like it is the same as if you were during the day. And Tashara doesn't feel like that at all because Tashara doesn't really get that dark because it is a moon, right? So the moon is actually what is making the planet below feel dark, right? But it's not, you're not really going to get the full-blown, it's like pitch black because the sun is hidden on that moon, right? So like it gets dim, but it looks like dusk, really. Like when it's nighttime, it feels like it's dusk. So I really, really am enjoying my experience with this game. Again, I never thought that. Well, I did think. Now, I'm going to walk that back. I did think that I was going to love this game, right? I mean, it's Star Wars. Of course I am. I just didn't expect to love it as much as I am. You know what I mean? And again, it's because of the level of detail that these developers have put into this game. That's really where it's at. So, as I said before, in my initial video of this, if you are somebody who loves Star Wars, this is a game that you have to play. Don't listen to everybody else. Don't listen, and I've told my friend this as well. I do not allow other people's opinions dictate my own opinion, okay? So, yes, I've heard all the stuff that's been said about Star Wars Outlaws. I've heard that people are not really jabbing with it. I saw the Metacritic scores. That does not change how I feel about the game, and it shouldn't change how anybody does. If you are a fan of something, you make your own decision on it. Now, obviously, there's some things that you're like, I mean, you are going to want that other people's opinions because you might be on the fence, right? That's okay. I get it. But if you know, if you saw that game initially and you're like, okay, I definitely want to play that, then go play it. Don't let other people dictate what you're going to do with it. Unless it's like, okay, for instance, like games as a service games. I really, really wanted to play Suicide Squad. However, I know games as a service does not work as a legitimate system in our industry, in the gaming industry. I know it doesn't. We've seen it time and time again. There are some that work. The majority of them do not. So when I heard that this game was going to be games as a service, okay, I'm going to wait. We're going to see how this games as a service actually runs. If it can run well, okay, then I'll jump in. Guess what? It's not running well, and they've already given up on it. So I dodged the bullet there. Not going to get that one. There are certain circumstances, CD Projekt Red, with the fallout of Cyberpunk, and obviously they did bring it back, but we're never going to forget how it launched, okay? In 2020, it launched piss poor, and they knew that it was going to launch piss poor, and they still put it out here, and they still lied to everybody. We cannot forget that. So on their next game, whether it's Cyberpunk 2 or if it's The Witcher 4, I will be buying that game until I hear people say, hey guys, it's not like it was before. They actually put out a polished game. It doesn't need to be polished, but at least it needs to be done cooking, right? We can let it settle while we're playing it, but it needs to be done cooking in the oven before we get it in our hands. And Cyberpunk was not that. So if I find out that their next game is not gonna, it still needs time in the oven, guess what? I'm not touching it. Not because I don't want to, but because of certain circumstances. So there are circumstances, as I just said, where you can take those opinions. But always remember, your opinion is what matters, right? You're not going to have the same opinion that Joe over here had, or Jim Bob over there, all right? You are your own person. You're going to have your own opinion. Make that opinion for yourself. That's all I got to say, guys. As always, I have been your host, Jedi Master Ren, and I will see you next time in the halls of the Jedi Gaming Academy. May the Force be with you.